Hello, this is Gerald Johan van Waas. With a small introduction of the Fool's Tarot, it is my first book. It has been written already many years ago. I can't even remember. Oops, I can't even remember. And it is a bit a strange introduction because I will say I am a bit skeptical on tarot myself. Why? Because I see a lot of people are distracted by the purposes it can bring, that it will provide them an insight in their future, that they will see who they can meet, the perfect match. I'm not interested in all these things. There's a lot of shadowing regions that are there. My original title was actually The Abstract Tarot, and I wanted to go away from these images that were always sought by a lot of people, seeking the images that would help them with their fears, with their desires, and so on. And I thought, no, there must be better guidance based upon tarot. If I investigate into tarot, I also thought, yeah, there's something missing. Many years ago, I also found somewhere in a book that there must be a more complete system. So I looked for this more complete system, and I found it by reading some Kabbalistic, very old Jewish book, the very known Sefer Yetzirah, and I realized this is the solution. This is the solution that will complete the picture of how to approach tarot. Tarot on its own is a bit limited in that way. It directs you somewhere without guidance of restoring anything, without guidance of your psychology. It leaves you in a very, in that way, dangerous, like the religious people would say, like it's a dangerous area where you can remain in the shadows of your thoughts or emotions and so on. And I tried to find a solution for that. First idea was to make it more abstract, that you would have the goal of really seeing the things from an abstract level, so not from a visualizing level. And I continued that path. So the first thing I did is making the cards like an abstract pattern that directed people also more into the essences of what they encounter. There are a few things I discovered. The first 22 cards I still consider as the 22 different areas that you can encounter, the normal encounters of situations. I'm not going to say much about it, but I also describe these situations. Much more interesting is a second arcana, which is a little bit larger, the larger arcana, with 4 types of cards: the hearts, the wands, the swords, and the clubs. Now I went very deep into these cards and looked for what they really mean, and I realized that the hearts is actually the whole process of emotions, and it is also it's as if these are 4 sensory organs in which people experience the world, and it separates these organs so that you can go deeper into it, learn from it, and so on. But there are always patterns that return in these 4 regions. If you follow them separately, you can learn from them, but they always lead to disillusion. Sorry to say that, except for the practical part, the last one. The emotions, for instance, it's an emotional path. It will always lead you to the same patterns again and again. and some of it will work, some of it won't. Always, again and again, the same process. You can't do anything with it. That will lead to liberation as you would seek it, as you see it idealistically. Solely with the emotional aspects, this also is a path of idiocy, as I can call it, a fool's tarot. That almost everything you do is a path of idiocy and foolishness. But there's something you can do about it. I will tell you later. The second part is the instinctive region, so you can feel instinctively what to do. Politicians do that all the time. They seek a balance and they keep the balance, and that's how they conquer their region of where they are. And the third sensory organ is expressed by swords, which is actually the ratio or the rational way of thinking. Also, this will ultimately lead to disappointment because people purely rationally, they don't understand everything. It's normal. But it always leads to that because you think you will understand everything, but you don't. And the last part is the practical one. Okay, this is the only part which really leads to a practical way, but it's just that. It doesn't have the complete richness of the four things, the four different regions, or the three other regions together. It's only when you start to use these four parts together that you come to something. Intelligence you cannot find by emotion or by rationality. Sorry to say that. Rationality on its own has no intelligence, or just only a sphere of intelligence, but it's on its own, it's not intelligence. It's only when you start to combine it with your emotional insights, your instinctive adaptations, and your practical solutions, that you will come to a certain intelligence, especially when you deal with these four regions together. And that's my goal, one of the goals that I have in this book. It will lead to a third part, so this is the second arcana. The third arcana will lead to a combination of these four regions together into the 22 regions where everything is again met. The only thing in the 22 parts that will help you and will guide you is provided already in a book which is not written by myself, but it is written by I will take it. Take it. Here it is. It's written by it's called here the Tarot in Herstelde Orde. It's written by Onno and Rob Doctors van Leeuwen, and they introduced 2 extra cards which I will talk to later. But I'm a bit too quickly, because first I want to tell you about how people approach the world. So my book is called The Fool's Tarot. It's not my idea, but the conclusion in the book is that the Fool is the most important card, because everything, if you want to achieve something, you have to, it's best that you have the position in which you have an oversight over the world, an oversight over your shadowy existence. That means that everything has a downside to it. Once you have a good balance between everything, you are actually in the card of the Fool. So it's like you have the overview. People don't do that. They think that they rule the world and they are the musicians, and they start all the processes from their own center. So the true foolishness is actually the musician and not the Fool itself. I can explain that further, but not for now. I was explaining already what is the other thing that brings you balance, and this is these 2 cards. It's your intuition or truth. It's an element that will be explained in the other books as well. It means some part you know, and some other part you don't know. So find the balance in the book of the other tarot book, which is not written by me. They just use it as cards, as just as the other card, but I use it as a balance. It's a weighing balance between this thing I know and this thing I don't. So I'm working towards the truth, and this is a very dark side. The truth is always a very dark side, and it's exaggerating what I know. So it's also very limited. But if you really want to make something, you have to use your intuition and then make it so. But it's not there yet. So it's very important to know how this balance works between what you don't know or what you know. The ultimate goal is here expressed in this Kabbalistic mandala, where all the cards are giving an order, and the structures which are in all the cards are actually, you have 4 cards of preparation and 10 cards of experience. So this is the second circle, and the middle circle are the experiences of the 22 cards, or of the experiences of the cards, led by the Fool in the middle. Let's say that's a bit better. So you can choose between the 0 Fool or the 22 Fools, so you're empty, or you fill it in with an overview. It's a bit up to you. You can have a lot of philosophies around that, how you approach this. But the best thing is the combination of the experiences in a balanced way, so that you can see, have an overview of all 22 situations. That's the last circle, that are neutralized, and they are neutralized because you see this from the vision of all 4 sensory organs at once. This is one of the schemes that sees the balance a bit. So you have always, like, if you do something, then you also have to deal with the downside of it. And the world, the balance of the world is also driven by these shadowy sides and not by the idealistic sides. It's one of the elements that's good to know. So the principles has to be neutralized by the understanding of the patterns. I don't say much more than that, but that's basically my book, what it is about. And it goes from the first arcana by the random experience, the second arcana, which I call the second one, not the minor of the major arcana. The second one is then how you perceive things in more detail, and then how you learn, the whole learning process with emotion, practicality, and rationality, and instinct, and how to bring them into balance. Once you bring them into balance, you can finally restore whatever you experience, because you see, here I am counting, here I'm not counting, and you give it a balance, or you can see the balance. Once you do that, the intelligences come forward, so you don't receive a real intelligence by purely emotion, instinct, practicality, or emotion. You can become good in it, but the real intelligence only comes when you start to combine them. If you learn to combine them in all these 22 situations, you have all kinds of different intelligences. These intelligences you can use in a group. So this is really as a kind of leadership. One of the leaderships that I am describing is, of course, the intelligence that describes the meaning of sounds and consonants. Then the sensitivity for this is, in a certain combination, you get this kind of intelligence. I'm not going deeper into it, but that's what my third book is about. It's this kind of intelligence. It's an intelligence which is not a rational intelligence. It's an intelligence which exists because you can see things, you can and bring them into balance, and because of this balance, from that perspective, You also know certain things and you can combine certain things. Rational, purely rational, you cannot explain it 100%. Purely emotional, instinctive, practical, you can't even explain it 100%, but they work. They are different kind of intelligences which are higher intelligence than the pure rational IQ, if you would call it that way. Okay, that's more or less an introduction for this first book. I don't think I will add much more, but I still consider it as from a certain importance, although my last book is for me the most important thing, an achievement. But this is more like a kind of introduction, like, oh no, you can, it's best that you take a certain balance and work towards a certain balance. Don't lie to yourself. Just look for this balance and see where you count and where you don't count. If you think you are the great thinker, the great inventor or leader or yeah, whatever, you're one of these idiots that are described in this book. I mean, leadership is spread around all the people. It's a situation which goes from one person to another. It's not in a person. It's leadership is something which is contemporary. Intelligence as well. It is an approach. So this approach, how it works, and how you maintain a balance. Then you have certain leadership, but it's not the leadership as such. It is a kind of insight because of this balance that you achieve. I'm not going to go much more into this. Okay, that's enough for this book. This is the Fool's Tarot, my first book. The second book goes deeper into the details of larger patterns. It also shows like the balance of the elements. You can combine that as well. You can see that, and of course it works its way through all the systems that are larger than that. Second book is more like a direct experience. It is different. I will talk about that another time, but you have already an idea what the Fool's Tarot is about, I hope. It's written slightly intuitive. It's still a bit intuitively. You if you read it, it's not the conclusions of in the way I describe it at this moment. It's like you go slowly into it in a different way of thinking, in a more abstract way of thinking, and work towards the achievements of combining the different card series very slowly and work towards it. The Fool is for me an important idea also from Gurdjieff, of course, because he also emphasized that we are all basically fools very easily, because we tend to exaggerate every position that we take, every step that we take. It's balance and restoration, which is much more important. That's why there are 3 arcanas in this book. They together form a possibility to find balance. Thank you very much.